Hey everyone, this is Dan, and this is my commander deck for Progenitus. Alright, so I got my Progenitus here, but I'm not going to start off by showing off the deck. I'm going to start off with a little spoiler here, because this deck has a lot of tokens and mad cards on the side. So you see that's my deck there, this here, this deck of cards. This is the tokens and other things I'm going to need on the side. So I'm going to show those off here first. Cha-chunk. Alright, so we're going to start off with an assassin. You know what card this is for. I also got an avatar. That sounds like another card from something I know. Beast, he's played in a lot. Cats, there's a few cards that can make those. A 4/4 dragon. So that's a 5/5 dragon as well. That's interesting. I got soldiers, so lots of things make soldier. 1/1 lifelink vampire token. I think I know what that's for. A 1/1 death touch wolf? Oh, wait, I didn't really know what that's for. 2/2 wolves, okay, no, that's pretty usual. 6/6 worms, those are pretty cool. And then well, I may be giving this away a little bit here. Just a little bit. What this deck is all about. But you'll find out in a second. We're going to start off with Progenitus. He's really cool. But for me, he's basically a 10/10 unblockable that can't be targeted. That's about it. I rarely play him. The rest of the deck just wins by itself. I am working on getting a Sliver Queen for basically being a mana sink, and that's about it. Commander's not so big in this deck. 5 colors, though. So we're going to start off with some lands. We don't have a ton of basics, because 5 color you can't really do a ton of basics. So we got 1, 2, 3 forests. We've got 1, 2 plains, and we got an island, and a swamp, and a mountain. Then we're going to start really kicking things into gear. We got fetch, 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 old school fetch, Crows and Verge fetch. Now these come in handy with our Ravnica duel, shockland, 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 sweet altered art underground sea. With the cards that can't be put into play with fetches, we've got Crumbling Necropolis, we got, Triland, 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 City of Brass, all of the colors, does hurt a little bit. Gemstone Mine, all of the colors, it does have, can only be used 3 times, but this is a fixable problem as you'll see later. All the colors, and doesn't necessarily hurt me. I also have in a Strip Mine, because Strip Mine is awesome, and a Reliquary Tower, because so is that. Now, from here we go on to creatures, and I don't have a ton of them in this deck. I've got Eternal Witness, because Eternal Witness is awesome. I've got Oracle of Moldiah, because playing lands is awesome. I have Geth, Lord of the Vault, because things in your graveyard are awesome. And Sphinx of Megosi, because drawing cards is awesome. And I have Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, because blowing up things is awesome, and shuffling my graveyard into my library is also awesome. And that's it for creatures. Really, I've got 5 in the deck. Plus all those tokens you saw earlier, but that's another story. Moving on from here, some artifacts. I've got Rings of Brighthearth for copying activated abilities. You will see this becoming handy in a second. I have Crucible of Worlds because I have 7 fetch lands in a strip mine that I would really like to play a second time. I have Nevinyr's Disc because sometimes other people have things and it is not good and you would like them to no longer have things. I also have Planar Portal because sometimes I want to have things and I have a lot of mana. Also in here I have a Mycosynth Lattice. You'll see why that's handy later, but for now, all you'll know is that it's a 5-color deck. And if you don't have to worry about which colors of mana you're tapping, that's pretty boss. And Mycosynth Lattice does that. I also have a Legacy Weapon because it is a 5-color deck, and removing permanents from the game is strong. Also, it shovels back in so you don't mill. It's pretty good. Spine of Ishsa, I think that's my last artifact. It does destroy stuff. It is also handy when it comes into play. You will see this coming handy later. On to my enchantments. I don't have terribly many of those, but they're all really good. We start off with Mirari's Wake because mana is good. Pumping up my creatures is a bonus, but I also like mana. Maelstrom Nexus. Now this one's fun. In case you haven't seen this one before, the first spell you play every turn has Cascade. It basically means you get free spells every turn. If you can play things on other people's turns, bonus points. I don't do that too much in this deck, but yeah. Doubling Season. Sweet new art, Doubling Season. Oh yeah. This is... You may have seen all my tokens, and so I double those, but you'll see that these will come in really handy later. Inexorable Tide. Proliferate. Putting counters on things. I'm starting to get a theme. Mana Reflection. More mana. You really can't go wrong. Omniscience. Okay, this card really doesn't have to be in here, but it is really cool, so I'm going to play it anyways. On to some sorceries. We got Wargate for going to get a... There weren't a lot of permanents earlier. I certainly hope I have some way to get permanents. Damnation. Sweet promo full art Damnation for blowing up stuff. Sweet promo art Wrath of God for blowing up other stuff. Achroma's Vengeance for blowing up blowing up stuff and removing stuff. It's a good idea. Ooh, Brilliant Ultimatum. Now this card is fun. For those of you who have played with Factor Fiction, take Factor Fiction, read it, but instead of put stuff in your hand, read, play it for free. You can't go wrong with free spells. Violent Ultimatum. More explosions. I used to have Cruel Ultimatum in here too. Turns out it wasn't good enough, and that's when you know that your deck's pretty cool, when Cruel Ultimatum isn't good enough. Oh, Decree of Pain, because blowing up stuff is good, and card draw is good. And then we move on to the instants. I've got 3. I've got Enlightened Tutor, because have you seen those artifacts and enchantments? They're pretty cool. I would like to have them. I've got White Sun Zenith, because I really like to, have some blockers from time to time. And I've got Blue Sun Zenith, because I like to draw cards. And now we get on to... Oh. Can you see how much of my deck is left? Look at how much of my deck is left. That's like a third of my deck. It actually is about a third of my deck, in case anyone's wondering. I've run through all the other types of cards you can play, actually. That's all Planeswalkers. I don't run 3 Planeswalkers. I don't run Domri Raid, because as you have noticed, I have 5 creatures, and that's not terribly handy to go looking for creatures off the top of my library. I don't run Nissa, because I don't play Elves. And I don't run Koth, because I have 5 mountains. Other than that, that's all of them. Bonus points, if anyone hasn't seen some interactions, Doubling Season does not double the number of counters you put on when you use an ability, because that's part of the cost, not part of the ability. But it does double when you put the Planeswalker into play, because that is an Enter the Battlefield triggered ability. Other fun things, the Rings of Brighthearth that we saw earlier, every Planeswalker ability is an activate ability, so you may pay 2 to do it again. We're going to put these in mana order, not in name order. We start off with Tibalt the Fiend-Blooded. A lot of people think he's the worst Planeswalker. You can keep on thinking that until you kill someone with his -4 ability because they just drew 50 cards. I'll leave it at that. Also, he does Insurrection, so if you can proliferate him enough, which you may have seen I have Proliferate in there, then he's pretty cool. Liliana of the Veil, by the way, going back up, this is a dual deck Tibalt. I'm trying to be as pimp as possible on a budget. Liliana of the Veil, I got this one pretty cheap. She's apparently $150, so yeah. Everyone discarding a card is okay. Somebody sacrificing a creature is okay. Taking one player out of the game is pretty strong too, with her -6. Johnny Caller of the Pride is +1 is pretty okay on my guys. His -3 is really cool, because sometimes you can just kill somebody, and his -8 is also good for winning. Original Jace from the Japanese duel deck, so it's anime Jace. Pretty cool. +2 is everyone draws a card. Woo, I like it. -1 is I draw a card. I really like it. -10 is somebody mills 20. This is probably one of the only ultimates you'll never use in this deck, because just drawing cards is better. Jace, Architect of Thought. We're on to the 4 mana cost, guys. +1's okay. Used a lot versus token decks. -2 is a mini Factor Fiction. Also really good. -8 is part of a really degenerate combo that I don't apologize for at all. If you really want to look at it, with Omniscience out and doubling season, which is totally doable. You play a Tameo, comes into play and Ulcer. Then you play Jace for free, comes into play with 8 counters instead of 4. Ult him, go get stuff out of everyone's library. Then he comes back to your hand and you play him for free again, and you just play everyone's library. It's kind of a jerk move, but as a way to win, it's really funny. There is a Tameo in here, don't worry. Dual deck Sorin. Basically every one of his abilities is awesome. His +1s gets you tokens, his -2 makes your creatures bigger, and his -6 gives you 3 creatures if they're in play, and kills them. Sweet. Garruk Relentless. Probably the weakest of the Garruks in this deck. Though once you flip him, he does say sacrifice a token to go search for Ulamog. So yeah. I totally don't have a Jace the Mind Sculptor. This is a My Little Pony. I don't apologize for it. I do have to have it in here because it is really awesome. But in this deck, to be honest, you could probably get away. I've gotten away for a very long time without having a Mind Sculptor without really needing one. For the Jace Mind Sculptor, you're really just going to be using the 0 ability every turn. You're not going to... Ult is barely going to win you the game in a multiplayer format. Lillian of the Dark Realms, back to cards that are useful in this deck. +1 to go get dual lands. Yeah, -3. By the way, in case anyone was wondering why I'm playing this one and not Koth, Koth only cares about mountains that are in play. Liliana can go get you swamps. So that makes it much better, especially when your swamps can do other things. A Johnny Goldmane, getting back to old school cards. This one's pretty much good on everything because he can just sit there and gain you life. And his avatar will win you the game once you play the other Johnny and give it flying and double strike. Sarkhan Vol. Usually you'll play Sarkhan Vol and immediately gain control of something. I found that happens pretty often. Otherwise, if you have doubling season out, you pay 4 and you get 5 4/4 dragons. There is no downside. Chandra the Firebrand. Pretty awesome. You're not going to be using the -2 that often, unless you really want to be making double cats. But the +1's good for just, randomly killing off baddies. The -6 is okay. You can use it to kill off a few creatures, but either their creatures are going to be too big, or they're going to have too many. So, for the most part, you're going to be just in there +1ing, and then -2ing your random good stuff. Johnny Vengeant. I have used his ult once. I really don't like to, because it does seem like a jerk move. By the way, this is Promo, a Johnny Vengeant. Yay. Usually you're just going to be tapping down a big attacking creature. I have, against Voltron decks, or like to suit up a guy, it's really handy. Garruk Wildspeaker. Once you have out a doubling, not a doubling season, blah. Once you have out a Mana Reflection or Mirari's Wake, he's free, because his +1 untaps the 2 lands it costs to play him. And then you just make tokens. And then you win with a +3/+3. By the way, I will be bringing up a really cool way to win later with him. Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas. His +1's okay, because you have a few artifacts in there. The -1's okay. The -4, if you have out a Mycosynth Lattice reads, they take double damage for every permanent you have, because they're all artifacts. So yay. Ral Zarek. He is the newest addition of the deck. I haven't had a chance to play him yet because he's very new. I am expecting him to be really awesome, though, because I like taking extra turns. Also tapping things because I don't like things attacking me. Elspeth Knight Errant, pretty much good all around, because you're just going to be making soldiers. And you make more soldiers and make your soldiers, and then all of a sudden, everything that's not Planeswalker is indestructible. Kind of wish it would make my Planeswalkers indestructible. Maybe I should play Avacyn. I don't know. New School Gideon. Good against token decks, because then you put him at 50 counters. I got Anime Schoolgirl Chandra. Yay. This one's probably the most useful of the Chandras in the deck, mostly because you can -X to kill off utility creatures, and -8 to kill off somebody's all of their creatures. Garruk Primal Hunter, probably the most useful Garruk in here, just in terms of getting stuff done. You can +1 make a beast right away. If you have something like an Ulamog out or an Avatar token or some dragons, you can -3 right away, kills them off, which is unfortunate, but you get to draw a lot of cards. And then once you get him up, especially if you want a if you have a doubling season out, which I've done, you can get like 20 odd worm tokens. Kind of makes you win. Old school Gideon. This guy is pretty cool. It is kind of a one-turn fog versus angry decks. That's pretty much all he's there for. He can come in and blow up annoying creatures right away, though. Russian Jace. This guy's pretty cool. I haven't used him a whole lot. Probably the least useful Jace I've actually got in here. Sorry about that, guys. Moving on. I have Liliana Vess. Unless you are winning already, your first act with Liliana Vess is to -2 to search for a card and put it on top of your library. That's pretty much it. Tamio the Moon Sage. Here's that combo I was talking about. It is cool to tap down creatures that don't untap, because that's better than a Johnny Vengeance, because he only keeps things from untapping. -2 can be good when you come to play to just draw a lot of cards, and then the -8, of course, makes it so that when your planeswalkers die, they go to your hand, and then you play them again with Omniscience, and then you're just a mean person. Sarkhan the Mad. He is really good comboing with a card you're going to see in a second, but for now, notice that if you play Sarkhan Vol and make a ton of dragons, and then you play Sarkhan the Mad, and then all those dragons dome somebody. Yay. Tezzeret the Seeker. Now here's that combo I was talking about with Garruk and Mycosynth Lattice. His +1's okay. His -X, once you get a few counters on him, is really nice, because then you can go get your good artifacts. But look at his -5. Let's combo that with Mycosynth Lattice and Garruk, the original one. That means that all of your permanents become 5/5 creatures. And then Garruk says they get +2/+2 and trample. Then you swing with your planeswalkers at people, your 8/8 planeswalkers, because you're a terrible person. And if you're fun, then you combo it with... Darn it, how far away is Venser? I'll find Venser. Vraska? Most of the time you're going to be playing in blowing up a non-land permanent. I have gotten the Assassins out once. I didn't win with them, because then someone wiped the board. Elspeth Terrell. Mostly good for gaining life for all your tokens. Also good to keep at about 6 counters to just keep everyone from doing mean things to you. There you are, dual deck Venser. Venser does cool things. For instance, he can flicker Sarkhan the Mad once you've chosen to draw a card and done a lot of damage to him. He can make all your planeswalkers unblockable when you're swinging 8/8 trample planeswalkers. He can flicker Eternal Witness to make it so that you keep getting stuff out of your graveyard. Pretty much good all around. Soren Markov, good table politics. His -3 is probably the best table politics you'll get. If you have out a doubling season, you can instantly take someone's next turn, which is kind of a jerk move, and makes you win usually. Chandra Ablaze, God, she's a bad planeswalker. The -2 is usually what you'll be doing when you have no cards in your hand. That's about it. Or if you know someone has just drawn a full grip of like 30 cards, you can force them to pitch it. After tilting first, of course. Karn Liberated, we're almost to the end of the Planeswalkers here. He's a removal spell. He's one of my best removal spells. I've never restarted the game with him, never had to, never gotten to that point. I want to see it happen someday, though. And then we got the last one. Dual deck Nicol Bolas, because he's scary. With a doubling season out, you can play Nicol Bolas and ult him right away, because you're a mean person. You can also just play him and take control of a creature, permanently, forever. Which is also fun for people's commanders. And that's all the Planeswalkers. Ever. Hope you guys had fun. Next deck tech, we'll be looking at a Voltron deck, a really nice one. Really easy to play, really easy to beat.